Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Ben, and this is a pile of possibilities for quarter four of Historathon 2023. So, Historathon 2023 is a year-long reading event where we are reading, discussing, and celebrating nonfiction history. We have split the year up into four quarters. And each of those four quarters looks at a different period of time. Quarter four, the last quarter, looks at the years 1820 all the way up to the present. And I'm pretty excited for this this quarter. I've been excited for every single quarter, but I'm going to be diving into history that I haven't really read a lot of in a while. So I feel like I'm, basically returning home in a lot of ways. So I have a pile of possibilities. Now, actually, these are the books that I really plan to get to. And there are other books also that I hope to read over the next 3 months, but I've got you can't see the bookcase over off to my left, but it's just filled with history books, and I've got let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, like six cubicle shelves just filled with books that fit into this time period. So the books I'm going to show are the ones that I plan to get through, but I'm probably going to read other things as well. So let's get started. So for October, you can see I'm wearing a Count Orlok's Nightmare Gallery shirt that I got in Salem, Massachusetts. I am a horror fan, and I should specify a horror film fan, especially. I don't consider myself well read in horror literature, although I am working towards that. I have been reading a lot of Gothic fiction through time. I'm working my way through the 19th century, and then I plan to dive into the 20th century, hopefully, really next year. I plan to read a lot more modern horror. So I just want to say that. So October for me is, my favorite month. I live in New England. The leaves already in late September are starting to change yellow. I love the fall. I love Halloween. We've already got decorations up again in September in my house. We've got a zombie and a skeleton sitting over at our dinner table that hang out with us. We've got all kinds of horror memorabilia around the house. So I am dedicating October to, when it comes to nonfiction reading, to things that relate to horror. That includes horror studies, but I don't know exactly what I'm choosing for that yet. But I mean, like horror film studies. So one of the things I know I'm going to read, I plan to read this in early October, is The Man of the Crowd, Edgar Allan Poe and the City by Scott Peebles. So essentially what I think this book is, I think it looks at the different cities that Edgar Allan Poe lived in and how those affected his writing and stories. I think that's pretty much what I'm expecting here. I've always loved Edgar Allan Poe. I have a bust of him downstairs in my horror book cabinet. And I figured I'd start off with nonfiction history work looking at Poe. Now, in addition to that, what was my train of thought there? I guess I'll just leave it at that. So what I was going to say is this was also part of a Princeton University Press book haul that I did earlier this year that I had gotten during a 50 book buying ban. Got it halfway through. I'm glad that I did, but in order to sort of justify getting those books, I vowed to read those books before the end of the year. And this is one of those books. So this is going to be early October. Also in October, I plan to read this. The Haunting of Alma Fielding, A True Ghost Story by Kate Summerscale. So this is nonfiction work about a, real-life haunting. Essentially, in the 1930s, I believe it was, this girl, Alma Fielding, she is having... I don't know all the details because I haven't read it yet. I just know the vagaries here. Essentially, she is experiencing ghostly activity, things moving in the house, that sort of thing. And this Hungarian researcher, doctor, his name was, let's see, Nandor Fodor. He's a Hungarian ghost hunter, they say, for the International Institute for Psychical Research. He basically becomes very involved in this case and studying it. And this is where we get the concept, if I remember correctly, of the poltergeist. and stemming, I think, from Alma Fielding. So this is essentially establishing in paranormal studies and also in popular culture eventually the idea of a poltergeist. So I'm really interested in this. This is nonfiction. It is not meant to be, a regular ghost story. It is an examination of a real life case, and I'm assuming the ramifications of it. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this will be really cool. Probably a really good October read. So those are the two that I plan to do for October. In November, ideally, what I would actually like to do is focus on one of my favorite time periods, and that's the Civil War. Now, I don't know what I'm going to choose for the Civil War. There is at least one book that I do definitely plan to read, and that is this. Gary W. Gallagher, Causes One Lost and Forgotten, How Hollywood and Popular Art Shape What We Know About the Civil War. So essentially it's looking at Civil War through film and examining the films and, of course, how that influences us. Now, I do have an interest in historical memory, the ways that we look at the past, how we use the past, and how the the populace, I should say, consume history and how they learn about it. And especially when it comes to the Civil War, there have been a couple of really good Civil War films. There have also been a lot of really bad ones, and a lot of them that rely heavily on things like The Lost Cause. So I'm really interested to see what this book has to say about those sorts of things. So it's one that's been on my shelf for a long time that I've been wanting to get to. So I'm determined in November to get to this one. And again, I'll probably choose some other things about the Civil War. I just don't know what I'm going to choose yet. Another one that I want to get to before the end of the year is this, because this was also part of that Princeton University Press book haul, and it's not a small book. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll start it in November and finish it in December. I don't know exactly when I'm going to fit this in. It is my plan to finish it, and I hope that works out. But it's The Great Leveler: Violence and the History of Inequality from the Stone Age to the 21st Century by Walter Scheidel. And it seems to be, if I remember correctly, that violence and disasters and all, they kind of have a way of leveling things and leveling the playing ground in history and creating great changes. I think that's kind of where this is going to go. So I'm interested in this. It does have some fairly small text, and we also have a lot of like graphs and charts. I'm wondering if this is going to be like technical, if it's going to flow really well. I don't know how the writing is going to be. And it's a chunker. So I'm hoping this will be a good read. I think that cover looks pretty awesome, but we'll see. This is one that I vowed to get through, and I'm hoping I can keep that vow. Now, again, there's other books that I'll probably end up reading. I just don't know exactly what, but lastly, I want to show 3 graphic novels that I plan on getting through. One of them I recently showed in a book haul, and that's The Accidental Tsar: The Life and Lives of Vladimir Putin. So a graphic novel that essentially, shows how Putin came to power, and I guess the fiction that he somehow ends up generating and that gets bought and repeated by the rest of the world is what I'm gathering this is. So it's essentially exposing the lies that Vladimir Putin tells. So this seems like a really interesting read, and it looks like it'll, it's not going to be a very long read either. I think it'll be pretty quick. So this is one of the graphic novels. Another one, this one I got in a used book haul not too long ago, Persepolis, a memoir about the Islamic Revolution, right, in Tehran. So, growing up in that. So this is one that I know I have heard great things about. It's always making lists of like best graphic novels and etc. And so this one, again, I don't think will be a long read, but one that I plan to get through. And speaking of acclaimed graphic novels, I also plan to read The Complete Mouse by Art Spiegelman. His book about his father's experiences in the Holocaust. Now, this was also, I think, originally published in 2 parts, Mouse 1 and Mouse 2. I read years ago Mouse 1. I didn't own Mouse 2. So I've read Mouse 1, and this time I'm going to reread Mouse 1, and then I'll read the second half and finally get through the Mouse, the complete story, as we can see. But you can see the Nazis are shown as cats, the Jews are shown as mice, and I believe the Poles are shown as pigs, if I remember correctly. But I remember it being pretty powerful stuff when I read part 1. That was a long time ago, but I'm really looking forward to getting through the whole thing. So that is my pile. 3 graphic novels and at least 4 books that I really plan to get through, although, like I said, I also plan to get through more history. I just don't know what yet, and I don't want to show a ton of books because I got a lot and just not read them. So this is what I got for a pile of possibilities. As always, if you've read any of these things, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. And I hope you're joining us for Historathon, the last quarter. It should be good. I really look forward to seeing what everybody else is reading. And we will be doing Historathon again next year. So starting in January, we'll be back in the prehistory to the year 500 CE. So I'll be back to the ancients within a few months. So I'm looking forward to at least getting through some more recent history in the near future. If you've read any of these, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. And as always, thank you, BookTube.